All right. So back to humanities. SEPI is, of course, on humanities. And when we're talking about humanities, what we're saying essentially is what it means to be human, right? And that is why you have religion come under it, because religion has always been a part of societies. Okay? That's why psychology will come under it. Human psychology, philosophy will come under it, right? What does philosophy mean? Anyone? Is anyone interested in philosophy, even if you don't know what it means? Reasoning behind something? Ji, you're interested in it. Okay. अब नाम भी बता दें. I'll try to. I mean, when you guys were on site all the time, it was easier to remember names and faces. Now it's harder. Like, I mean, I barely remember names when you've just seen somebody online. But yes, I will try. So your name, please. Hassan and Zahid. So you're interested in philosophy, and what does it mean specifically? It's actually love of wisdom. Okay. So philosophy essentially is love of wisdom. When you translate this Greek word, it comes out to be love of wisdom. And that is why a lot of times the question that is asked in philosophy is, what is the good life? And when you say what is the good life, then you also need to define what is good, right? I mean, when one of you defines what is good for you, it might not be good for another person. Okay? Is that helping you in some way? Keeping that on the meeting? It's just white noise. Ji? Sorry, I can't hear you. अच्छा, आप ऐसा करें ना कि you can turn off your mic and you can still listen. ये कहाँ से आवाज आ रही है? Oh my goodness, oh my goodness. Thank you. Okay. So lost I. Okay. Thank you so much. That's better. So there was white noise because one of you had your mics on. So please make sure you have your mics muted. Unless you want to speak, you can unmute and then mute again. Okay? Now it's much better. Okay, thank you. I was a bit lost there. I thought one of you had signed in. I'm like, why do you have your speaker on? Acha. So philosophy is love of wisdom, and what is the good life? You need to define what good is. Okay, for one person, it might mean something else. For another person, it might be a completely different thing. However, when you are defining what is good, human beings have come to one sort of, you can't really say one, but they've come close to a number of definitions, right? So, for example, somebody might say success, a successful life is a good life, but then you need to define what success is, right? Um, a lot of times, okay, you can give your input, but a lot of times it's to do with happiness as well, right? Okay, peace is much better. So, happiness and peace are different, and that's very good if you're sort of able to distinguish that, because essentially, when you define happiness, it's more to do with feeling pleasure, okay? And it can be temporary as well, okay? And it could be a short time. And usually when you're defining pleasure, that's also a short time period that you're talking about, okay? Whereas peace or contentment, they are more, they're more to do with the state of of a person, okay? A state which is staying for a longer period of time, and it's sort of, it's not really dependent on what is happening outside of you, okay? Yani, for example, um, let's suppose you plan a get together with friends and you have a very good time and you're happy after that, okay? So that particular, any particular incident or that time frame, like 2 to 3 hours, caused that happiness because of the pleasure that you had with your friends, okay? Your friends' company. Peace and contentment, however, they are more to do with, a background feeling of gratitude. And we're going to get into that later as well. But this is just to explain how, when we're opening up the humanities, you have so much coming into it. Okay. So when we're saying SEPI, the reason I first found this to be a very weird name for a subject is because you're talking about socio-economic philosophy of Islam. Whereas when you're talking about religion, when you're talking about Islam, you have to sort of look at the religion from, I mean, from the foundation or from the basis that people of religion talked about it in their own terms. So let me explain that again. So let's say that you have a scholar. Who is a scholar? Somebody who has in-depth knowledge about whatever their subject is, whether it's religion, whether it's mathematics, economics. So a scholar has specific focused expertise on the subject. Okay? So if we're talking about a religious scholar, they're going to look at religion in a very different way, and they're not going to, well, this is something that you also have to think about when you're studying CEPI with me, inshallah. What I want you to do is we're going to be talking about three very important topics in the first module. And we're going to talk about this for a good 2 to 3 weeks. Okay? These are the words that will keep coming up: Iman, Islam, and Ihsan. Okay, so I'm going to narrate a hadith after sort of introducing a little bit what this is all about. So these three terms are going to come up again and again. Why? Because there is a hadith which is also known as the mother of all hadiths. Does anyone know what is the mother of the book or the Quran? Have you ever heard of a surah in the Quran? Surah Yasin is the heart of the Quran.
Surah Ikhlas.
And Surah Yasin.
Surah Yasin is known as the heart of the Quran. Okay?
Ikhlas.
Surah Ikhlas is, I'm not sure if there's a name given to it.
Surah Fatiha
is something else. Surah Fatiha, yes. So who was that? So
Musfira.
So I think Musfira was right. Surah Fatiha, okay, which you read in your prayer, in your salah. Okay? So every ruku, whenever you stand up, you have to pray Surah Fatiha and then another surah. And Surah Fatiha is known as the mother of the book, not the hadith. So this is the book, i.e. the Quran. Okay? So mother of the book. What does it mean? Why are we using this term mother? It's because what happens is in Surah Fatiha, because we haven't really studied it, right? And we're not going to do that. Maybe at the end of the course, sometimes I do give 1 or 2 surahs for you to study on your own. But Surah Fatiha is known as the mother of the book because whatever is introduced in it, okay, although let's look at it. Chale. So we start with Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. We're saying that praise be, and Alhamd, by the way, if you look at the Arabic, Alif Lam means that you are saying that each and every praise, okay? Lillah is for Allah, and then we're defining who is Allah, who is this Lord that we're talking about, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. So 2 attributes of God, okay? And both of them actually, interestingly, come from these 3 root letters, Ra, Ha, Mim, Rahman and Rahim. But of course, they must be different होंगे ना Rahman Rahim, वरना दोनों use करने की जरूरत क्या थी? एक use कर सकते हैं. Again, scholars talk about why, how these are different, why both of them are used. Rahman is more to do with an encompassing mercy, okay? And a being who sends that mercy in abundance at one time, okay? Yani ek miracle ho sakta hai. Something happened, somebody was sick and they are given health again, something that makes you feel that miracle, that miraculous nature, okay? So Rahman means abundant, yani mercy or compassion, okay? That's why sometimes it's translated as compassionate. Rahim is more an attribute that is for a longer period of time, yani ke because attribute क्या होता है? किसी इंसान का attribute वो चीज़ है जो कि change नहीं होता. It's like a part of who they are. It doesn't mean कि एक वक्त they are merciful, at another they are not merciful. It's actually an attribute means that you have some personality trait in you that is there, and your friends know that it's in you. Okay, it's something that's there constantly. So that's the difference between Rahman Rahim. Interestingly, there is, okay, so these three root letters. I don't know if you've heard this before, but this is also the Arabic word for womb. And a lot of times the three letters that you look at, okay? So for example, ilm kya cheez hai? And I don't require you to know Arabic as such for the course, but whatever I tell you within a lecture, okay, that is something I do want you guys to be a little bit aware of. So what I want for you is that you guys are following lectures, okay, reading, because it's a reading extensive course. So wo to zaruri hai. So you guys need to be aware that you have to follow the readings, but also the lectures. As long as you're doing these two, you're good to go. Okay, inshallah. So whatever I'm saying in the lecture is all you need to know, nothing outside of it. So what I was saying was that ilm, these are three letters, okay, which mean knowledge. उसी तरह आपने उर्दू में भी पढ़ा होगा मुअल्लिम क्या होता है, teacher, ठीक है? And the root letters are again ayn, lam, mim. So what I'm trying to say is, a lot of times in the Arabic language, two words have the same root letters, and there's some connotation of similarity between them. Okay, so rahim is the womb of the mother, which denotes again mercy, compassion, and again there's this word rububiyat, which we're going to look at later. Yani parenting jo cheez hai na, jo aap ye jo word is Rabb. When we say Rabb, we mean Lord. So Allah is Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Okay, so we actually go back to this word, and if you look at the first verse of Surah Fatiha, back to Surah Fatiha, back to the first verse, you have the word Rabb before Rahman Rahim even. Okay, so when we're defining Allah, we're saying Alhamdulillah, He Rabbil Alameen. Who is Allah? He is the Rabb of Alameen. The Rabb comes before Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. So He's the Lord of the Alameen. Does anyone know what Alameen means? It actually means world.
It's basically the worlds.
Yes. So not just world, not just one world. It's denoting that it's not just this world, okay, that we know. There are other worlds.
Universe.
So it could mean the world of the Jannat. It could mean maybe parallel universes. Who knows? So if anybody's interested in physics, we don't know. We don't really know, right, if there is a parallel universe or not. But we do know that there are more worlds than just ours. Okay? It could mean, the world of the jinns as well. So Rabbul Alameen, and then Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. So then the two attributes that are explained are Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Malik Yawmiddin. He is the king, Malik of Yawmiddin. Now, after introducing Allah, he's saying that he's also the king. Again, it's still the introduction. He's saying that he's the king of the Yawmiddin. The Yawmiddin is usually translated as the day of judgment.
Doomsday.
However, if you look at the Arabic, it means the day of the deen. What is the deen? Which is interesting, right? I mean, Yawme Islam ne kaha, Yawme, I don't know what else there could be, but Yawme Deen ka matlab hai that day will be the day when the deen counts actually. Because deen doesn't always count in this world, does it? I mean,
Day of Judgment.
Decision.
Yes, Day of Judgment. ठीक है? अच्छा, अब देखिए, when we're saying Yawm Deen, we're saying this is a day when the deen will count. Yes, please. Yahya, ji.
Ma'am, how Yawmid? Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, how you can say that the day of judgment relate to Yawmiddin? Won't it be the starting of the deen from the day the deen was started or the Islam has came into foundation? How can you relate to day of judgment?
Sorry, I didn't get your question clearly. Okay, you're asking how can you say that Yawm Deen is Day of Judgment, or was it something else? I didn't catch your question. Can you please repeat it, or you can type it down?
I'm saying that Yawmiddin, doesn't it mean that the day of foundation of Islam, or will it be the day of judgment?
Foundation of Islam. Okay, so Yawm in the Arabic language is day, okay? So you're saying that Yawmiddin could it not be in foundation of Islam, which would mean Maliki Yawmiddin, the king of the foundation of Islam. मतलब वैसे भी यौम के हिसाब से Arabic wise अगर आप देखें, so that is not an accurate translation because we're taking out the word yawm from it, okay? And also it doesn't really make sense because when you're saying king, usually the king has a dominion, okay? A king has a place over which they rule, okay? So the king has dominion, and naturally then Allah would have some kind of dominion over something, okay? So what is he ruling over? अच्छा, question ये पैदा होता है कि रब्बिल आलमीन शुरू में आया, that he is the Lord of the worlds, then why not the King of the worlds as well? It's interesting, isn't it? ठीक है? तो पहली बात तो ये, I know that, I mean, I think British maybe 200 years ago, 1800th century, people used to say Lord to a lot of people, right? My Lord this, my Lord that, right? I mean, that was the way they talked, I think, because, I don't know, I think it was basically their translation for master, perhaps, right? Master or Lord. Okay? But that is why the word Allah is special, because nobody else is named Allah. Okay? Rab jo hai aur logon ko kaha logon ne, king dusre logon ko kaha hua hai. So all these words, you can say a person is Rahim, okay? But Allah is specific only for Allah. Okay? That is why it's specific. That's why it's special. Acha, so we have one attribute. We have to go a bit faster, I think. 918. Okay. Rab, Rahman, Rahim. And then you have Malik Yawmiddin. He is the Malik, or the master, or the king of the day of judgment. Okay. So the idea is that there are a lot of kings in this world. There are a lot of people. We might have dominion over our own houses, our own families, you know, our own situation. Lekin asal mein, on the day of judgment, there's only going to be one king. There's only going to be one master. And on that day, our little dominions won't really count. Okay, that is the idea, that because, you know, in this course, we're also going to be looking at evil. When we have evil in this world, it does make you think. This is a famous philosophical question. How can God exist when evil exists? If God is all good, why does he allow evil? Why does he allow people to suffer in this world? Okay, so the nature of the world, of this world, is that it is imperfect. It's not perfect. So because of the imperfection, we know that Allah does not, you know, his justice in this world is not going to be supreme. He's going to let our free will play also. Okay, इंसान की जो free will है वो इस दुनिया में act करती है, which is why it's not perfect. That is exactly the reason why this dunya is imperfect. Otherwise, अगर हम angels होते तो ये दुनिया perfect हो सकती थी. जी. Why did he make it imperfect? Is that the question? मतलब that is imperfect. That's very important. That's a good question. That's exactly what the angels asked Allah, right? The angels said that we are worshiping you, we are praising you. Why do you need to create this world in which these people are just going to create, what did they say? Fitna and bloodshed. Okay, which is what essentially humans end up doing. Yani, it is a failure of humanity when we end up in wars or shedding bloodshed. Ji. Exactly. So in the Quran, if you look at the Quran, ठीक है, उसमें ये जो incident है, the angels asked, why did you create humans? ठीक है, when, you know, they will create fitna. Fitna means you have confusion between what is true and what is false. ठीक है, that is fitna essentially. It could be a test. It could be something that that's making you confused. So a fitna and bloodshed. And what did Allah say? Allah replied that I know that which you know not. Iska jo answer tha specifically, angels ko jo Allah ne kaha that I know something which you know not. Okay? Ye hum dobara karenge when we're doing why does evil exist in the world? there are a lot of reasons, honestly. There's not just one reason, okay? But yes, that's one of them. Okay, the entire, this play that is being acted out in this dunya, in this world, which is imperfect, it leads to a lot of things. It leads to us realizing that we are in search of something perfect. Every human being is. We search for perfect in our relationships. We search for perfection in ourselves. And the fact that we can never seem to attain it seems to point at something else. Then why did Allah keep that, want or that need for looking or finding for something that is perfect when you can't really find it in this world? ठीक है? That's one of the wisdoms. So Allah ने ये उस वक्त बहुत एक succinct सा answer दे दिया angels को कि I know what you do not know. Yani there's going to be something about human beings which might be even better than angels. वरना human beings बनाने की जरूरत नहीं. ठीक है ना? So the reason that Allah made this world and humans is that there was something in Allah's plan. And what we know from scholars is also that if a person uses their free will to do good when they have the power to do bad, that is what makes them better than angels. Because unke paas, yani, they could go the other way as well, right? They have a choice. So angels don't have a choice. Okay, so that is the idea, but hang on to that. We'll come back to that later as well. Okay, so let's get back on track, inshallah. We were on Surah Fatiha. I was trying to explain why it's called mother of all the books. Okay, so it sort of introduces Allah. Okay, and then Maliki Yawmiddin, Iyyaka na'budu, and then suddenly on the fourth verse when we're saying Allah is the master of the day of judgment, he's Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, and then we say Iyyaka na'budu, it is only you we worship, wa Iyyaka nasta'in, and only you that we ask for help. Okay? So again, worship and asking for help. And then there's a lot about guidance. I'm not going to get into that. But the idea is that the entire Quran is about telling us about Allah. Okay? Why did the prophets come? The prophets came so that they could guide us back to our fitra. Who knows what the fitra is?
Nature.
Nature. Your basic nature is your fitra. Okay? According to the Islamic definition of fitra, it is that your heart knows that Allah exists. Every heart of every human being, a person who says, I don't believe in God, inside their heart, they know Allah exists. And there's an entire incident that all of the souls of human beings were created before our bodies. Okay? The souls were presented before Allah and they were asked, Alastu bi rabbikum? Allah asked, am I not your Lord? And all of us said, Bala, indeed you are. So what did we do? We bore witness that Allah is our Lord, and we don't remember that. So yes, the question arises, कि क्यों नहीं याद हमें, क्या फायदा था इसका? फायदा ये था कि this is the heart, which is known as the qalb, and we're going to repeat a lot of this actually in the coming few days, inshallah, in the weeks, so that it's sort of, you can make connections, hopefully. So my intention for you for this semester is that you make connections. Okay? Not every module needs to be studied separately. You need to be making connections yourselves as well. And today, because it's an introduction, I'm already doing a lot of that for you. From now on, it'll be sort of module wise. So हम एक चीज पे focus करेंगे. अभी मैं sort of सारा एक web फैला रही हूँ आप लोगों के लिए. ठीक है? So that you sort of get an idea of what the entire course is about, hopefully. But I think I did a little bit too much for the first day. Tell hopefully. The qalb or the heart, the spiritual heart witnessed Allah. Okay? And the heart is what witnessed Allah, and it attained the love for Allah and the knowledge of Allah. So when we saw him, we knew that he exists, and we loved him, because when you see something beautiful, then you love that being. Okay? So these are in our fitra, that a human being loves Allah and knows that he exists. Okay? So the idea of a mu'min or a Muslim is that we bear witness that this is the truth. We bear witness to the truth that we know is true. We just say that, yes, I know that this is true. We sort of say it out. Okay? So this is the idea. That is why a person who doesn't believe, or kufr, is also known as denial. Okay, that is the Islamic paradigm, that this is something which is the truth and people choose to believe it or people choose not to believe it. ठीक है, उसी तरह Big Bang Theory भी अगर आप देख लें, तो science जो है, we're going to do this, human origins जब हम करेंगे, तो science जो है वो कुछ चीजें हमें समझा देती है, ठीक है? So we know how some things work, but we don't know why. So we know the Big Bang happened. We know how it happened, ठीक है? But why did it happen? क्योंकि अगर आप देखें कि, you know, everything that, you know, how far the earth is from the sun, ठीक है? Everything about the earth is so perfect in that way. Imperfect to hai dunya. I mean, our lives are imperfect. Everything inside the dunya is imperfect. And human beings are themselves who are making it imperfect by causing pollution and whatnot. Okay? But the idea is that, you know, all of the conditions that are put together to make the earth livable is actually infinite. I mean, all of the conditions that are required, they're just too perfect. It's just like too much perfection. Is it really random? So that's another, I mean, that's the Islamic paradigm, that you either believe that that is random or you believe that it's designed. That's your choice. Okay, so a person makes that choice. अच्छा, चले, let me थोड़ा आपको fresh कर देते हैं. थोड़ी सी video है जो मैं आप लोगों को दिखा देती हूँ.
Ma'am,
जी.
I have a question. Why do
Yes.
some people stay in denial or deny the fact that because our souls did witness Allah, but then people deny it? Is it because of the environment they grew up in or society?
There can be a lot of reasons. It could be an environment, but the idea is that around the 20s, all of us question a lot of things. Yani existential questions har insaan ke aate hain, theek hai? So even if you're a Muslim, if you're a born Muslim and you maybe your parents are very religious, your grandparents were very religious, the idea is that around the 20s, you're not really going to follow them always, right? You have your own thought process and you will get your own questions. You are going to be required to sort of look at the questions, get your own answers, come to your own conclusion and understanding of things. Okay? So being born Muslim or being in a good environment may have a little bit of, you know, plus point in it. However, it is not enough. I mean, you know this, looking around you, you know this. Okay? It's never enough. You being a born Muslim, you need to actually actively say that, yes, I am a Muslim. Well, eventually you will be reaching that point in your adulthood. Okay? Similarly, a person who is not a Muslim, they will be faced with existential questions and they will choose how to look at how to answer them. You know, what is their answer to the questions that are coming up. So ये हम करेंगे आगे जाके इंशाल्लाह. Let me go back to the thing which I did not finish. Let me just complete this and inshallah I'll take your questions after that. So why is it the mother of the book? Because Surah Fatiha is essentially, you know, in a nutshell, telling us what the entire Quran is going to be about. वो मैंने इतना detail में नहीं किया है, but the mother of all hadiths you need to know. Okay, so the mother of all hadiths, let me narrate this to you. So the Prophet ﷺ was sitting with the Sahaba, with the companions, okay? And there was this person who came in who was wearing white clothes that were not dirty, did not have dust on them, and jet black hair, which did not seem like he had traveled. It was completely jet black, no dust on it. जो सफर के असरात होते हैं, right? I mean, in those days, you could see somebody had traveled. Okay? It was not like sitting in an airplane. It was not you're not like, you know, all dressed up and everything. You could tell you had been on a camel or you had been on foot 4 days on end. Okay? Nobody seemed to know if this was a guest at somebody's house. You could choti si community fee, if somebody had a guest, people would know. So all of the Sahaba, they sort of became curious. Ki aakhir ye hai kaun? Okay? So they started to pay more attention. And this person, he comes and sits in front of the Prophet ﷺ with his knees joined to the knees of the Prophet. And the Arabic goes that he put his hands on the thighs, on his thighs. So the his is not clear. Ki wo pronoun, does it mean the Prophet or does it mean himself? There are two possibilities. Ki wo khud apne thighs ke upar haath rakh ke baithe, which means, there was a reverence and there was, like, he felt like a student. या फिर वो इतने क्लोज थे कि उन्होंने Prophet ﷺ के thighs पे ऐसे हाथ रखे, ठीक है? And he had that kind of friendship with the Prophet ﷺ. So that made the companions focus more on who this person is. So he asked the Prophet, what is Islam? There are different versions of the hadith. Some ask about Islam first, some ask about Iman first. He asked, what is Islam? And the Prophet ﷺ said that these are the 5 pillars. Okay, 5 pillars of Islam, in the Shahada, the Namaz, Roza, Hajj, and Zakat. Now this person says, yes, you have spoken correctly. Okay? Or is wajah se companions aur zyada हैरान हुए कि ये, how come he is asking a question and then when he's getting an answer, he's saying, yes, you're right. Nobody used to do that because this was the Prophet and they're just asking him a question, right? So this seemed to be a very strange person. Second question was Iman. What is Iman? And the Prophet ﷺ answered that Iman is basically the articles of faith. So believing in Allah, believing in the prophets, believing in the books, believing in all the angels, bilkul. So all of the articles of faith, okay, and the Day of Judgment. Then he asked, what is ihsan? And then he said, yes, you have spoken correctly. Then he said, what is ihsan? Now, ihsan in the Urdu language is completely different. So you have to take that out of your mind. Kisi par ihsan karna, well, it does come from the same word, I guess. Husn kya hai Urdu mein? Beauty, right? So ihsan comes from that. To do what is beautiful. The Prophet ﷺ answered, ihsan is that you worship Allah as if you see him and if you do not know that he sees you. So yani, ihsan is sort of the pinnacle of Iman and Islam. We're going to do this again. So don't worry, agar aap logon ko abhi nahi yaad ho raha ya samajh nahi aa rahi, you need to understand it more than remember it. So ihsan is basically doing something in a very beautiful manner. And how do you do something in a beautiful manner? If you are aware of Allah in a way that you know who he is. Ek hota na ki awareness, haan, theek hai, I believe in Allah, but you don't really know his attributes. And a lot of times people try to remember Allah, but they're unable to do so because they don't know who he is. If we don't know who somebody is, we're not going to remember them. Ihsan jo hai, essentially it's like a pinnacle of Iman in Islam, okay? Because we're going to talk about it later. I think because mein nahi chahte abhi, I'll let you know why it is, okay? And it'll take some time because we're going to spend a lot of time on Iman in Islam first. And then we're going to go on Ihsan, okay? So worshipping Allah as if you see him, it's almost like being aware of Allah, isn't it? Awareness of God. और अगर आप ये नहीं कर सकते, अगर आप इस level की worship nahi kar sakte, so at least know that he sees you. At least be aware that you are being watched. ठीक है? अच्छा, interestingly, ihsan में वो आ जाता है, spirituality आ जाती है. Like when we're going to do the last module of our course, that is going to be stemming from ihsan. So why is this hadith? Now, okay, what happened was that the Sahaba, the companions, they listened to all of this. Then there's also a part of the Day of Judgment and the signs of the Day of Judgment. ठीक है? उन्होंने पूछा कि आप बताएं कि Day of Judgment कब है? The Prophet ﷺ said, the questioner, the one who is being questioned knows no more than the one who is asking the question. ठीक है? So nobody knows who is when the Day of Judgment will occur. I think I will probably use the mic now because my voice is. He has the car, sorry? So can you just wait 5 minutes? Because 9:45. Achha, nahi, you're just going to give the key or you're going as well? Okay, fine, take it. Ji, sorry. Okay. The question was being asked by this person who nobody knows. Okay. And they're now curious कि ये कौन है, ठीक है? So after all of this, signs of judgment, day of judgment ka pooch liya. And then he got up and he left. So the Prophet asked the companions, do you know who he was? And they say that Allah and his Prophet know best. Okay? And he said that this was the angel Jibreel who came to teach you your religion. So this hadith is also known as the hadith of Jibreel. Is this not working? It was working then. So the idea was that the Prophet said that he came to teach you your religion or your deen. Okay, deen is essentially translated as religion. So then that means कि deen को अगर आपने एक nutshell में define करना हो, so that will be Iman, Islam, and Ihsan. Okay, and we're going to spend a few weeks doing this. Is it helping? I don't think so. I think there's something. Is it battery operated or what? It was working fine barely, no? There's no difference, is there? Tell it, because I'm losing my voice now. Okay, so this was the hadith of Jibreel, and so to end the course, because we're going to do this again. Okay, so let's end here before you start sleeping. To end, I'm going to show you a video which you will think about, and we'll talk about it tomorrow, inshallah. A lot of you may have already seen it. Kya naam tha? It was Rahil Awam. Anybody seen it?
Ma'am, you
Okay, so
can't see
those
the
of
screen.
yes, I will share it with you. And just in case there's a lag, I will share the link with you so you can watch it later. You want to turn off the light?
अबे हटाना इसको, दो गाड़ियों की जगह पे घेर के चला गया। अबे हटाना गाड़ी है, दो गाड़ियों की जगह लिए चाय आती समझ नहीं आती। अजीब हालत तेरी शक्ल पे, अन्नी बंदी है, चाय बाबा। अरे बीच रोड पे गाड़ी लगा के जाएंगे उसके लिए बात तो हो रही। कहाँ चले गए पैसे यार, देख यहाँ आवाम का दिमाग खाली बनवा दो। ये देखा, पढ़े लिखे लोगों को क्या फैलाया हुआ है? जाहिल आवाम है, जाहिल। बातें यारी बैठेगा, उनको किया हम कर सकते हैं। ये देखा, पूरा शहर तो लग गया है, जहाँ देखो थूकते रहते हैं यार, जाहिल आवाम है यार। तू क्यों बताओ? देखना चाहिए आता है। अच्छा। पागल का बच्चा सिग्नल लेकर आने का दिल्ली के बच्चे चाहिए वहाँ हमारे साथ एक सेल्फी ले लो। हम भी आगे सेल्फी यार अजीब लोग हैं, आप लोग ऊपर चले नहीं आ रहे, ओवरहेड बनाया हुआ इन लोगों ने। चलो क्या हुआ? ले लेता हूँ रॉन्ग में आ रहा है ओ भाई क्या हो गया रॉन्ग में क्यों आ रहे हो मेरे भाई ये जाने का रास्ता है आप गलत जा रहे हो जी जाहिल हो आप यार हमें सिर्फ पार्किंग मिल जाए मुझे यहाँ पे अरे ये नहीं पार्किंग अच्छी काफी 3 गाड़ियों की जगह है हमें यहाँ पे
So you can't see what's written here, but you can make it out because of all these boxes that come up. Okay, so it's a very interesting way that they have made this. So what can you give? Can you give your feedback on this? What are your thoughts on it? Ji.
Can I speak?
Can you hold on, please? After now. Okay, Hamza can go first. Ji.
मैम हमने इसमें ये था कि हर कोई खुद भी कुछ ना कुछ गलत कर रहा है.
Is there another Hamza? Okay, no wonder. Can you hold on, please? एक on-site student बात करें जो कि you can't hear them. Just hold on, please. I'll call on you, ठीक है? जी. Okay, सही. ठीक है. So, okay, so he said every day we can do acts which we don't realize, but they can have an impact on other people. ठीक है? जी. So, okay, the online Hamza now. Ji.
Ma'am, we criticize others on what they do, but we do not see our inner selves. We are also wrong, but we do not make it right ourselves and criticize others on what they do.
Okay, ठीक है. Yahya, please.
Everyone is trying to be perfect, but no one is trying to improve himself, and we are expecting that society should be improved.
Sahi. Okay, Ashar Ahmed.
Instead of looking around and pointing what's wrong, we should start improving ourselves first. Once we feel like we're improved, then we could point out others.
Okay. I like that. There's always one person who says that when we improve, we can point out others, right? इसके बारे में कोई और बोल सकता है कि नहीं? I want you guys to think about it a little bit more. I mean, yes, essentially that is what sounds correct. कि आप पहले अपने ऊपर काम करें. That part is good enough. ठीक है? Because the idea is that we are so quick to point to others, लेकिन we don't see the jahil in ourselves. ठीक है? लेकिन at the same time, let me share the link with you also. Where is the chat box? So listen to it again, watch it again, ठीक है? और कल हम इस पे और मज़ीद बात करेंगे इंशाल्लाह. Where is the chat? I'll share this. By the way, the TA will make a group, a WhatsApp group inshallah, and I'll be able to share these links with you then, ठीक है? Whereas you guys can just Google Jahil Awam and you'll find it, ठीक है? So do watch this once more, think about it more. This question, this particular point, I want you to think about more. So he said, when you work on yourself, okay, this is very interesting. That's how we usually think. Acha, maine apne upar kaam kiya hai, at least I don't have, but that's the point with this video, that all of them are doing something right. It's not like they're doing everything wrong. यानी हर इंसान वो एक सर्कल बना दिया उन्होंने कि एक इंसान एक चीज सही कर रहा है, ठीक है, और दूसरे की जो गलती है उसको पॉइंट किया तो वो एक और गलती खुद कर रहा है. वो गलती नहीं कर रहा लेकिन एक और कर रहा है, ठीक है? So all of us are like that. We have some things that we do well, some things which we are, perhaps weak at. यानी strengths और weaknesses भी ले सकते हैं और गलतियां ले सकते हैं अपनी कि हम कुछ चीज सही करते हैं लेकिन कुछ गलतियां करते हैं, ठीक है? Now the idea is, if you are quick to look at, the faults of others, are we looking inward? That is the first question. Second, usually a lot of students do this, they always end up saying कि जब हम खुद अपने ऊपर काम कर लें तो फिर हम किसी को point करें. The second part I want you to think about, are we then also, is it okay कि अगर हम एक चीज सही कर रहे हैं या अपने आप को हमने improve किया है तो हम आप दूसरों की तरफ point करें. जी मोहम्मद मारिज आप जीशान, you can go now, you can go ahead.
Okay, miss, am I audible?
Ji.
Miss, so there's one concept that I learned. It was called the internal locus of control and an external locus of control. So usually
Okay,
when
that's
people, an internal locus means like अगर कोई issue होता है at hand, then you blame yourself for it. And the external locus is something that you blame the external factors for it. Like let's say you wanted to go out and अचानक से बारिश हो जाता है. So you say that okay, nothing works in my favor, or weather खराब हो गया अचानक से, and so on and so forth. So like this was a prime example of that, okay, people ignoring the internal locus, but rather focusing on the external part. And this was my personal point, and you said to focus on that one specific point that I don't know who said about अगर अपने आप को improve करें तो दूसरी चीजों को point out करने का वो right होता है एक तरह से. So I don't necessarily believe in that, because as we know, nothing in this world is perfect. So yes, it does give us a greater understanding of what is right and what is wrong. But if we feel like we should be put on a pedestal because of a few good things that we do, so it just brings out, it just वो जो हम self righteous feel करने लग जाते हैं, तो it just balances out वो the goodness. So I feel like uh, we can note it, but like it's always about the way how we approach the problem at hand, that matters the most. So yeah.
Sahi, thank you so much. Bilkul sahi. You said internal focus or locus? I
Locus,
want to type.
L-O, yeah, wait, I'll just type it out on
Please
chat.
type it for the class. That's interesting. I'm going to look at that. I think this is what you said, but you can type it. Acha. Okay. Anyone else? Abdullah Ashraf.
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible?
G, you are.
Ma'am, ma'am, it was like, okay, ma'am, okay, what you give is what you receive. So instead of, focusing and thinking on the people, we should first, rationally analyze that what we are giving to the society. So, अगर हम सही कर रहे हैं तो obviously कल को दूसरा बंदा भी हमें देख के सही करेगा, and we will one day we will be receiving all the good things. So
Right.
I think that's what that was in the.
Okay, thank you. So let me add to that as well, if I can share this. So there are a couple of things we talked about. Okay, there's still some people left. So Muzammil, you can go next. Where's the color?
Excuse me, Miss, am I audible?
G, yes, you are.
Yes, Miss, I was just talking about how even if we have corrected ourselves, it is not necessary. It is not a good thing to do that we should go out and point out others' mistakes. Rather, we should set an example by our own character that others follow us.
Okay, thank you so much. ठीक है. मुझे यहाँ पे फिर मैं circle of influence की बात करना चाहूँगी, because this is a concept. Has anyone read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People? It's a very yes. आपका नाम? Muhammad Ali. So 7 Habits, Stephen Covey. It's a very famous book. Very old for us, I think 80s में लिखी गई थी कब, but it's still very, 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 I think, relevant, okay, to each of us, because it's about change. So 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is about how to change habits, okay, simply how to change habits. He talks about the circle of influence, and he says that a lot of times we're looking at things which are outside our circle of influence, okay. There's a tiny circle of influence around us, people who we can influence. When we say something, it will either make them think or make them change, their habit perhaps. But that's a very small circle. That's a very, small group of people that we can influence. So first, we have to look at our circle of influence. Look at what changes it. How can it expand? How can we expand it? And can we really expand it? Okay? So the more realistic we are, the more we have, the power to influence anyone. Because usually, agar aap jis tarah is video mein tha, theek hai, the way that that's the way we usually do. If we just point out or criticize something wrong that another person is doing. Now that really helps anybody, right? Even khud ko bhi kya hota hai, at the end we're just feeling worse. We're just feeling worse off, that everything is bad, right? So it's better to sort of focus on the positive, yes, but a lot of times we can't help it. So I remember last semester we were still having a few classes on site before we went completely online, right? And I think it was early morning, 8:30 ke time par hi tha, because I think a few first classes I think we had at 10 a.m. But one day I drove at 8:30 a.m. and the entire street was full of trash. Like literally, it was like mujhe itna afsos ho raha tha ki us din aake humne ye dekhi ikatthe, right? This video, and it made me think that just looking at all of that trash made me feel so bad. And then I thought about this video, and I thought, how can I feel sort of better? How can I make myself feel better? And how can I make it sort of positive? Uska answer, although it's hard, but I guess yahi nikla that I'm enrolled in this, I think Nation Builders ke naam se. What they do is they collect your, trash which can be recycled. वैसे तो ये regular मतलब government की तरफ से होना चाहिए, but नहीं है, ठीक है? So there are people who do this privately, and you can collect all your like cardboard and paper trash, and there's a lot of it. So if you're buying stuff, all of it is packed up. आप उसको separate करें, they will come and pick it up. So at least you know that you're not increasing waste production. You're trying to decrease it, ठीक है? So there's a lot that people are doing, and I think particularly Karachi, there are a lot of things that people do. And we can be a part of that. Okay? So when you look at something like this, see how you can, I mean, I could have thought like this, कि मुझे शुक्र है बचपन से अम्मी अब्बू ने सिखाया, you're not supposed to throw trash out of your window from the car. ठीक है? I mean, सोचते लोग ये है, मतलब अभी भी जब मैं कभी-कभी देखती हूँ, I'm just like, it's just sad, because I think it's so obvious that if you don't want your car to be dirty, you don't want your house to be dirty, you shouldn't want your street to be dirty as well, right? ये भी हो सकता है, ये भी हो सकता है, और ये भी है that they just don't realize it. They don't realize, like आपने कहा था, right? कि consequence क्या है इस चीज़ का, ठीक है? It might hurt others. So we don't understand. एक और है video which we'll watch next week and we'll discuss it then, inshallah. It's connected. Okay, I want you to make these connections, that these decisions we make have a great impact on a lot of things. So we're running out of time. 9:45 ही class खत्म होती है, right? I keep forgetting.
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody who has anything to say, and then we'll wrap up, and then tomorrow, inshallah, we'll actually begin again with this video. Okay? So we're gonna talk about it again.
Can I add something?
Yes, you can leave now. Yes, Abdullah, you can leave if you have another class. Yes, what did you want to add?
Miss, I have a point on the thing that is being discussed, that if we are right or good at something, and we see that particular thing wrong somewhere, and then we have to point it out, because there can be a difference in the being of point. When we point out something, only then there is a room for change.
Okay. Okay. So, sorry. Okay, great. So I'm glad you guys pointed that out. इसीलिए मैं गई थी, कल हम शुरू करेंगे इस टॉपिक पे, क्योंकि अभी हमने इसको पूरी तरह एग्जॉस्ट नहीं किया इस डिस्कशन को. एक तो हमने देखना है कि जजमेंट या जजिंग अदर्स के बारे में क्या कहता है, ठीक है, दीन, एंड लाइक व्हाट डू वी अंडरस्टैंड अबाउट इट, व्हाट डज इट मीन टू जज अदर्स, ठीक है. एंड लाइक हमजा, एंड आपका नाम Maz and Hamza pointed out that there is a hadith that well, actually it's also in the Quran, okay, that यानी those who condemn what is wrong and encourage what is right. ठीक है? ये थोड़ा सा मैं एक second, let me tell you the Arabic for it. Nahi anil munkar, yes.
Amr bil Maruf.
Amr bil Maruf and Nahi anil munkar. ठीक है? That is a very famous concept जो आप लोगों ने सुना होगा. उसको भी हम थोड़ा सा खोलेंगे. What does it mean and how can we look at that? We'll start with that tomorrow. Remind me if I forget, just in case I start off with Iman and Islam. Remind me that we're going to discuss this first. ठीक है? इसमें थोड़ा सा time चाहिए हमें. And another place in the Quran, Allah says that they mutually encourage each other to do good. That is Surah Asr, I think. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. So the word here, تَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ first आता है. ठीक है? That they are sort of encouraging each other, mutual encouragement towards what is true. So what does that mean exactly? ठीक है? We'll start with this tomorrow, inshallah, and I'll see you on site and online. It's the same setup for tomorrow as well. So
Yeah.
we're ending. Okay. Okay. If you can bring, बल्कि आप कल ले आए, अगर reference आप ढूंढ के ला सकते हैं, it will be nice for me. Okay? Thank you.
Allah Hafiz.
I can
Ma'am.
share it tonight, inshallah.
Thank you so
Or
much,
on
ma'am.
Sundays.
Allah
Or I
Hafiz.
can do it on Sundays. I can share both Friday and Saturday. That's okay. ठीक है? Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz, ma'am.
Allah Hafiz.
मैम
जी.
मैम आपने एक हदीस बताई लाइक वो ईमान एहसान एंड व्हाट वाज द पार्ट एंड देन फिर आपने एक दूसरी चीज की बात की द डे ऑफ जजमेंट. वो उसी हदीस का पार्ट है या दूसरा हदीस है? लाइक आपने कहा दिस हदीस वाज हदीस जिब्रील.
हाँ जी. उसी
So,
उसी
was
हदीस
it part
का
of the
part
first
है.
one?
Yes, it is the part of हदीस जिब्रील. यानी कि एंड में उन्होंने
No.
ये सवाल किया. Can you क्या
Like
sorry?
first
Can you
उन्होंने
repeat?
ईमान एहसान और उन चीजों के बारे में पूछा एंड देन
फिर डे ऑफ जजमेंट के बारे में पूछा. तो yes, that is part of the hadith. ठीक है? That is part of the hadith. उसको मैंने बहुत
but
खोल
ma'am,
के नहीं बयान किया और हम वो करेंगे अगले वीक्स में करेंगे इंशाल्लाह.
but ma'am how can we say that this is mother of all hadith? Like इसमें तो इतना ओवरऑल इतना कुछ खास मतलब नजर नहीं आ रहा हमें. लाइक इसको मदर ऑफ हदीस किस तरह हम टाइटल दे सकते हैं? वो सूरत फातिहा तो ठीक है एक सेंस देता
ये अच्छा सवाल है.
है कि
We're
उसमें
gonna
सब
do
कुछ
that.
ओवरऑल बता दिया गया.
हम अगले हफ्ते में इंशाल्लाह यही करेंगे. ठीक है? यानी हम इसको खोल कर देखेंगे इस हदीस को और क्यों इसको मदर ऑफ ऑल हदीसेस कहा गया. इंशाल्लाह बाय द एंड ऑफ दिस मंथ आपको ये सवाल का जवाब मिल जाएगा इंशाल्लाह. ठीक है?
Okay ma'am. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
You're welcome. जी.
अल्लाह हाफिज मैम.
बहुत अच्छा सवाल है. Okay, Allah Hafiz. So your question is मजहब. ठीक है? Now interestingly ये उर्दू में जब हम मजहब कहते हैं ना तो confusion हो जाती है because मजहब हम religion को कहते हैं, दीन को कहते हैं. ठीक है? Arabic में ज़हाबा का मतलब है to go. ये हम बल्कि जब fiqh करेंगे ना तो हम ये करेंगे. It means to go. ज़हाबा means he went. ठीक है? That one person went. So मजहब means just a way to go. यानी एक रास्ता जिस पे आप चल रहे हैं उसको मजहब कहते हैं. ठीक है? तो उर्दू में इसलिए उन्होंने शायद ये वर्ड यानी रिलीजन के लिए यूज कर लिया. अरबिक में रिलीजन के लिए यूज नहीं होता, ये दीन यूज होता है रिलीजन के लिए. ठीक है? मजहब जो है ना वो हम करेंगे जब हम लॉ करें. जो आपका लॉ का मॉड्यूल है उसमें आता है 4 मजहब है सुन्नी स्कूल ऑफ थॉट में एंड दैट जस्ट मीन्स डिफरेंट वेज टू इंटरप्रेट थिंग्स. ठीक है? तो ये थोड़ा सा आप जहन में रखें कि मजहब अरबिक में डिफरेंट है और उर्दू में डिफरेंट है. इंशाल्लाह जब हम लॉ का मॉड्यूल करेंगे तो इट विल बी क्लियर. हाँ ये भी मतलब हुआ. बिल्कुल बिल्कुल बिल्कुल.
और मैम हम मजहब पढ़ेंगे या दीन पढ़ेंगे?
हाँ ओके हम दोनों पढ़ेंगे. ठीक है? मतलब हम लॉ के मॉड्यूल में पढ़ेंगे और दीन तो ओवरऑल थ्रू आउट द सेमेस्टर विल बी टॉकिंग अबाउट.
बट मैंने सुना है लाइक मजहब तो मैन मेड चीज है और दीन जो है वो खुदा की तरफ से है. Is it right?
वो आपको जब हम लॉ मॉड्यूल में थोड़ा सा और खोलेंगे ना इसको तो आई विल एक्सप्लेन कि मजहब क्योंकि अरबिक में डिफरेंट है और उर्दू में डिफरेंट है. तो यस टू सम एक्सटेंट यू आर राइट बट यू विल हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड मोर कि इस मजहब का मतलब क्या है. ठीक है?
Yes, ma'am, it's very important तो इंशाल्लाह discuss कर लेंगे.
Okay, so can I call it a day? Can I end the class now, inshallah, if there are no more questions or comments?
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Okay, Allah Hafiz. See you tomorrow, inshallah.
Allah Hafiz.